1. Background and main ruling. On June 27, 2023, the United States Supreme Court issued a 6-3 decision determining that lower federal courts do not have the authority to issue nationwide injunctions to block the enforcement of presidential executive orders, even if those orders are deemed unconstitutional. This ruling reaffirms the Supreme Court's ultimate supervisory role in the U.S. judicial system and ensures consistency in the enforcement of federal law nationwide. 2. The focal point of controversy. Citizenship by birthplace. The lawsuit originated from an executive order by President Trump titled Protecting the Meaning and Value of U.S. Citizenship, signed on Inauguration Day, aiming to revoke U.S. citizenship for children of undocumented immigrants, even if they were born in the United States. The order directly challenges the 14th Amendment, which guarantees citizenship by birthplace. The reason for this order is due to the excessive exploitation by foreigners coming to the U.S. to give birth and obtain citizenship. According to a report by the Center for Immigration Studies, it is estimated that about 33,000 to 36,000 children are born each year in the U.S. to mothers who are foreign nationals temporarily in the U.S., mainly on tourist visas.
Ruling and political impact. On Friday, June 27, 2025, the U.S. Supreme Court voted 6-3 to approve the Trump administration's request to temporarily suspend parts of the rulings by 3 federal judges that had blocked an executive order ending birthright citizenship, that is, the guarantee of U.S. citizenship to most people born on U.S. soil. Through this ruling, the court firmly rejected the concept of nationwide injunctions, judicial decisions effective across the entire country that prevent the government from enforcing a law or policy, even beyond the scope of the specific case. The ruling was a significant legal victory for the Trump administration, which had struggled to implement immigration policies due to continuous blocking by federal judges appointed by political opponents through broad injunctions. The ruling, delivered by Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett, held that such injunctions undermine the role of the executive branch and should be limited to directly affecting the plaintiffs, not extended nationwide. Typical examples of conflicts between the judiciary and the executive branch. Many of President Trump's executive orders during his 47th term were repeatedly blocked, especially by judges appointed by Obama or Biden. The gang crime deportation order was blocked by Judge Edward Chen, appointed by President Obama at the Northern California Court. The visa restriction order from countries with terrorism risks was rejected by Judge Theodore Chuang, Maryland Court, appointed by Obama, for being religious discrimination. The policy of monitoring undocumented immigrants was nullified by Judge George Hazel, Obama, Maryland. The effort to cut funding for sanctuary cities was blocked by Judge William Orrick III, Obama, California. Abrego Garcia was prosecuted on charges of human trafficking and conspiracy by the grand juries in Tennessee. He could face the death penalty if the government finds enough evidence linking him to an incident where 50 migrants died. Abrego Garcia is a full-time human trafficker who has made over 100 trips across the United States, transporting members of the terrorist gang MS-13, as well as trafficked women and children. Garcia was protected from deportation by a ruling from Judge Edward Chen, appointed by President Obama, at the Northern California District Court. Although released by the court, he remains detained by ICE pending trial.
5. The paradox in the structure of American democracy. The ruling also highlights a profound paradox of American democracy. The president is elected by the people, supervised by Congress, faces the risk of impeachment, and is constantly under pressure from the media, the public, and power-checking organizations. Meanwhile, federal judges are not directly elected by the people, are not supervised, and are almost impossible to remove from office. Moreover, they lack expertise and do not have advisory systems on social, intelligence, security, strategic, diplomatic matters, etc. Yet they can unilaterally suspend a national policy. For personal purposes or partisan interests, they easily disrupt policies that are often interconnected with many different fields of the nation, diplomacy, and military affairs that the government has studied and implemented. And they bear no responsibility. More notably, they are almost impossible to remove. Under the current system, federal judges are appointed for life, and the impeachment process against them is nearly impossible to carry out. It requires an absolute majority in both the House of Representatives and the Senate. 6. Restoring the balance of power. The Supreme Court does not deny the role of lower courts, but requires them to limit the scope of injunctions within the framework of specific cases. This ruling is seen as an important step to restore the balance between branches of power and to limit judicial overreach in political disputes. For the Trump administration, this is an opportunity to strengthen executive power and pursue a more decisive strategy in governing the country. 7. The consequences of the court overstepping its authority. Instead of upholding the rule of law, partisan and biased rulings against President Trump provoked a strong reaction leading to the Supreme Court's 6-3 decision. The Democratic Party should have anticipated the consequences. If they had not abused their legal intervention powers, tools like nationwide injunctions might have been preserved as an emergency weapon to control the executive branch's overreach. But now, the last card to dismantle President Trump's policy to restore America's growth has been eliminated.
8. This timely amendment demonstrates the effectiveness of the U.S. Supreme Court. In this case, it is clear that the Supreme Court has increased the power of President Trump. With insight, 6 justices agreed on a president who has shown outstanding ability, a spirit of fairness, clarity, and seriousness about national interests. Strengthening executive power in this case is not a danger, but an opportunity for America to move forward more effectively and decisively. In just a few months, President Trump has shown the effectiveness of the U.S. government more than many years of previous administrations. He deserves the votes of 80 million Americans.